This is a video about the first sign of summer, Cancer. Specifically, I'll talk to you about the general scope of this sign, the meaning of it, the experience and conditioning, and in my lexicon, the simulated experiences, as opposed to the direct spiritual experiences, which begin to show themselves in the emotional body and can be fully realized in the mental or causal bodies entire, as well as specific energy signatures as to the year 2026 and what we can expect in this sign and in this time of year. So I've written extensively about Cancer and the nature of the moon. In fact, it was one of the first topics I wrote about on my blog. It's something that I hold close to me, even closer than I could imagine. I realized late in life that the best way to explain this zodiac sign is to say, look at, and we can't judge something according to its manifestation. Spirit takes on many forms. Looking at video games and the video game series Final Fantasy, the storyline of every Final Fantasy for the last 2 decades has been formulaic. It's been memed that every Final Fantasy character goes through an existential crisis. And I can think of a good example in the 9th installment, which came out around 2000. The lead character late in the game finds out that he's inanimate. Early in the game, we found out that another member of his party or his team was inanimate. Another part of his team had their village destroyed. Another part of their team is a princess who realizes that she was adopted. So you see a theme here that every character is in the midst of an existential crisis, a crisis of discovery. And that's the nature of Cancer, this zodiac sign. The simple way to put it is that Cancer and Capricorn form a line of force. In the case of Cancer, we'll consider it as an independent line of force. And we'll say that on either extreme is, on the left side, lost. On the right side, found. So on the right side of being found, we'll say that there's the experience of reformation. Now, looking at the symbol of Cancer right before you, you see an indication of that. You see two objects converging. So the nature of summer and this first sign is convergence, coming to yourself, finding yourself, rediscovering yourself, having an opportunity to remember. And this is where the nature of Cancer's nostalgia comes in. We have a chance to remember. And this happens every single full moon. So we always experience the energy of this zodiac sign once a month. So this full moon is helpful to us always, in that it always teaches us and shows us what the nature of this sign is and what we can expect to experience for the entire month. Now, on the other end, the left end, which is lost, we have what I said, or rather in the middle would be the existential crisis, because you come together, you find yourself, you level out. You aren't completely satisfied, but you have a ground and you have a beginning to work with. And this is the sign of manifestation. This is the sign of beginnings. And I believe, even according to Manly P. Hall in his reincarnational astrology book, he indicated that the fourth sign used to be the beginning of the zodiac. So there are indicators that this should be the original and beginning sign of the zodiac, the sign of manifestation, the portal of manifestation. So another symbol that comes to us, passed down through, I would call it FB occultism, Facebook occultism, the hand-me-down occultism, is the energy signature of 1221 consciousness. In other words, mirroring, reflecting, which is an aspect both of Venus and the moon, which moon being the ruler of Cancer. Now, the idea of convergence happens there as well, because, and this goes back also to the dual polarity of Cancer and Capricorn, because Capricorn experiences this also, is and she experiences it through winter, the winter stilling, the stillness, the non-movement, the depolarizing. And that's also the nature of 1221 in summer through the sign Cancer, is that this is another convergence. This is a 0 point, so to speak. But in our case, this is a 0 point of life and movement, because this is an energy of fluidity. In winter, fluids don't move and things cease to move, and you're rather stuck, and you have to deal with the theme of acceptance and so on. With Cancer, you have this same theme under a different identity, and set of conditions, rather. So you have an opportunity where time slows down, and the popular or colloquial way of expressing this is the timelines. The timeline theme. The timelines converge. Here you have an opportunity to reach into the palm of infinity and pull a new timeline. So this is where you have idealism and optimism. Of course, these are themes of the sacrum, but also of the crown chakra. This is extremely arcane. This won't matter to most people, but anybody who's deeply involved in occultism will know this or learn to appreciate it. Is essentially that the crown chakra could be looked at as a higher octave of Mercury in a sense, because, and we get a sense of this in the Egyptian mythology, where the moon is associated with the god Tehuti, or Hermes Trismegistus. Now, you might be interested, because I said Egyptian mythology, but I mentioned a Greco-Roman name, Hermes. So in history, they syncretized gods according to knowledge and the science of their times. So Hermes Trismegistus was a syncretism, kind of like Serapis was which was a type of snake and healing god. And so you have an association of Mercury and the moon. And the arcane part is that, and we have indications of this in Christianity through the Trinity format. The threefold, the thrice greatest. That's what Trismegistus means. Hermes Trismegistus is the god of our world, and this is because he's the nature of spiritual design, spiritual architect, the convergence of things. And here's where we have that Mercury moon tie, as well as through the metal element, the liquid silver and silver of Mercury and moon. So that would be the crown association there, and you can appeal to him this time of year. This is why I'm saying this for anybody who's interested in vocational arts. You can appeal to him, you can invoke him with some sense, knowing that he's associated with the violet ray, with scripture, and with architecture and spiritual design and convergences and timelines and such. Now, on the far left end, we have Lost, which is where you have no sense of magnetic north, so to speak. You have no sense of bearing, and this is a really unfortunate case to be in, and this is when your crown chakra is closed. But you should always try then to build a sense of rediscovery, build a sense that's based off of the right spectrum of the thing. And that explains Cancer as a whole. Now, there's a special case that's coming up, simply because the energy signature specifically for our year is Pisces coded. I have a system that I've spoken about. I have a technique, that's called the Spring Ingress Dispositor. And this is a tool that I use to predict the yearly signature. And it falls in Pisces this year. So this will be an energy that trines the Cancer Sun. And this is converging at the same time that the full moon is in Capricorn. And this is converging at the same time that we have a stellium activation in the coming weeks, around mid Cancer season, which would be July, I would say July 4th through July 7th. We have a stellium activation. We have the energy of the full moon, and we have the SID activator. And it all says a lot for the spiritual development, the clearing of blockages, of disconnects, as per Pisces. I even would go so far as to predict that we will have a alien contact revelation. Going back to the timeline convergences or even deconvergences, we can even refer back to last year. This time of year, Trump, the president of the U.S., made a strong stance, very silently, about his position on the so-called cabal or Epstein cartel. He made a strong stance against it, contrary to what everybody wanted and what everybody expected. So that's an indication of the negative side of Cancer manifestation, is that you'll get the deconvergences. You'll stray further from your path. And that goes back to the left pole of Lost. That about wraps that up. As far as the Capricorn full moon, just think about everything I said, especially about the winter aspect of the converging. Think about the Janus spirit, the spirit of looking two ways at once, the spirit of good hearing. Keep in mind, winter is the time when your hearing opens because things get quiet. That's why you hear the echo when you step, um, in a spiritual sense, not in the physical scientific sense, which has more to do with other phenomena. But anyway, take care. That's that.